Welcome to Wash Talk, the Carwash Podcast. I'm your host, Rich DiPaolo, and joining me today is Tim Hogue, CEO of Modernwash Buildings and Solutions. Tim, it is great to see you today.
Good to see you too, Rich. Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
No, thank you for taking some time today out of your busy schedule to discuss today's topic, and that's to what it takes to build an innovative modern car wash today. What does that look like? We want to help our audience understand when we say modern car wash, what that looks like. But first, why don't we go into a little bit of history on Modernwash Buildings and Solutions, and maybe some of your history and how you got into the car wash business.
Sure. I was in the construction world, and I had a business partner that was in the car wash world, and we went into some business together, and he wanted to develop a structure that he could market, which at that time was kind of a different thing, a glass type car wash structure for, at that time, in-bay buildings, automatics. And so I helped to design that building, and that building really took off. And so we saw a need for structures, not just in the in-bay market, but the conveyor market was growing more all the time and had kind of come out of an era of old block buildings and needed to be modernized, I felt like, quite a bit. And so we started designing those and building those. And gosh, it's been right at 30 years of building these now. So we've been at this a long time and built all over North America, Canada, and the continuous, United States. So it's been 30 years, but it doesn't seem like that, So
time might have flown, Tim, but a lot has changed in the car wash industry over that 30 years, right?
Yes, sir. It certainly has.
Well, nowadays, with competition being so high, fewer employees on sites at a lot of these express exterior sites that we're seeing nowadays in the market, the building design itself, in a lot of ways, sells itself to the audience and what the business is about. And it's almost like a marketing tool, the design of some of these car washes. They're so beautiful. But your company is known for building and designing innovative structures to help stand out from the crowd, right? So what are the characteristics of a well-designed modern car wash in 2024?
Well, and that's a deep question too, Rich. Modernwash is always designed with an automotive style aesthetic. In other words, the buildings we do, we try to mimic some of the themes that you get in a modern vehicle. We think the clients that are coming into the car wash, that's what they're interacting with quite a bit, right? So we've always tried to have what we call an automotive aesthetic of a type. We're looking at us as being, the equipment is so high tech and modern and beautiful now. It looks far less clunky than it did years ago when we started all of this, but the equipment is so beautiful. We look at what we're doing as just a housing to go on that equipment to complement the equipment. So some of the things that we try to do, we try to have striking design, certain elements in any building that helps maybe to reinforce the brand of the client. If we can put anything from entrance enlargements, columns, signage towers, even office exterior elements, signage, all those things that we try to do to reinforce the client's brand in that design. And we want them all to really kind of harmonize. Of course, we have to design for specific equipment requirements, given that as well. And so you want to make sure you've got the clearances and all the things in place, plus room for the staff, to do their work. But anymore now, you've got storage areas that have to be taken into account. We do a lot of second floor mezzanine equipments location, for smaller footprints. A lot of maybe water storage, water recycling that has to be put on another level. So we are all the time, engineering is always in flux to find innovative ways, to help the client perhaps utilize the footprint a little bit more efficiently, if that makes sense. And, so a modern building, a modern car wash anymore, it's a high-tech lab. So you've got to really have a building that can complement the requirements of the laboratory, but also, we're building these things to pull people off the road. That's the whole idea. You want it to be striking, and the main thing, you want them to look at it and kind of pay attention to it for sure, be shocked, but then you want them to know that it is a car wash. That's the main thing. That's why we're all here, right? So several things like that go into it, and it seems like every day, Rich, I've been at this a long time, and we built in the thousands of car wash buildings now, and I swear every new one, there's always something more to learn. Never say never, there's things that we maybe have not done before, and then we start looking at a problem and we say, well, let's do this, and so that sends you in another direction, and that could alter the design, so I hope that answers some of your questions.
It does, yeah, and it actually makes me remember, or allowed me to recall a story we worked with Modern Wash with, I believe, on Wash Boss. And I know that operator was interested in building bold colors, and it had a nice orange, a nice striking orange facade. So I'm sure as each location is different, the operator's needs and what they envision their car wash to be all different, right? So from a customer's perspective, as you mentioned, right, they're passing by the car wash, whether it's to drive member sales or those impulse visits. What do we want to make sure that the customer sees from the road that helps a car wash stand out?
Well, and that's really, and you hit the nail on the head. It's from the road, because that's where we're pulling the client. That's where we want them to notice us. So our first line of defense is a bold building, as bold as we can, that makes the city happy, obviously, with bold colors that reinforce the client's branding. We've always got to take the branding of the client into account. And honestly, if the client comes to us and has a brand already established, then we want to make sure whatever design we do, it works with it, in conjunction with it. So sometimes that'll send us in a direction. If the client doesn't have a brand, then we'll work with them to hopefully help to us create a brand. But obviously, when the client is looking from the road, we want them to see the colors. I want them to see an easy ingress into the site. I want it to look so easy that there's no reason for them not to just pull off, and it be an impulse buy of a type, and so we want them to be able to navigate through the site. We are always big at Modern Wash on, the building is part of the design. Really, the site, the equipment, all of it comes together as the design, really. So, I want the building to look so great and have striking elements and perhaps some curvilinear or monoslope type details that hit people at their heart. But also we want the site, if we can be involved with that, and we love to be early on, I want that site to be like a pump. I want it to be able to pump people in and pump people out. Obviously, as many people as you can get through there effectively, that's the more money that you'll make. And so we don't want anything to hamper that. We want, smooth flowing navigation signage that is also complementary to the building. I think a lot of operators miss out on that sometimes. I think sometimes operators think people will just know. And you and I have probably all been to car wash sites where people actually pulled in the wrong end of the car wash, So we want it to be so simple for folks, and they feel just so secure and just have an excellent experience. So I think the site has to play a role in that, move the folks in and out, and that they feel comfortable. They don't feel too hemmed in. You need a little room, and I know where all room is at a high price anymore, for site location, but we don't want the client to feel hedged in, and we want them to feel comfortable. And if they have a pleasant experience, then you've just turned that customer into a client. They're going to come back again and again. And we just want to reinforce a positive experience for the client. And we feel like, and not to be so wordy, Rich, but we feel like that the equipment is so high tech anymore. I mean, and you're building a laboratory, you really are. So we think the building should complement that. It should meet the aesthetic of the equipment. And the customer experience, as years ago when, our customer experience at a car wash, it was at a lower level. Now people expect quite a bit more, And we have been trained on years of Apple computer development and all these things that really up the aesthetic of things. Even the cars nowadays, the fit and finish and the things that they do with the vehicles. I mean, so people expect more. And obviously, we're in a customer service industry in the car wash business. And so we just want to do everything we can do with the building and the site design to complement and speed that process along as much as possible.
Nice design and some marketing. It helps prime that pump that you mentioned of getting customers in and out, right? So,
yes.
I want to bring you back, speaking about the car wash industry of the past. And, I grew up in the Northeast, and some of these car washes were so run down, Tim. I felt like my car might have gotten dirtier going into them, coming out of them than going into them, right? They were dingy, they were dark, they were in corner of town that you didn't really visit too much.
You're a good place to be robbed.
Exactly. It seems like it come leaps and bounds since those days, right? So if you've been doing this for 30 years, and it's always scary when I try to do math on this show, Tim, but that puts your company, starting in the 90s, right? So,
yes, sir.
So, going into the late 90s and the early 2000s, we saw the boom of the express exterior wash. Technology now is so much more front and center, as you mentioned. It's a lab, a high-tech lab, as you recalled it. How is design impacted with all these trends? Can you share any insights into the latest trends and innovations in car wash design today in 2024 that enhance the customer experience and operational efficiency?
Definitely. If you look from the car wash side, which affects us from the building side somewhat, is obviously the pay systems. All the advanced tracking that they've got now with the vehicles and the pay stations, and that's kind of a first line of defense coming into the car wash. So you've got that, and we have to allow for the clearances and the headroom for those designs also. So in the building end of things, we kind of have to allow for that technology. You've got enhanced water, technology such as the obviously recycling, reclaiming, and so we actually now build a lot of times storage in the building to be able to house that water more effectively, and sometimes out of the floor plan site. In other words, on another level, and that opens up the lower level more for the equipment. I think robotics and AI are going to play even a bigger role, don't you, Rich? Because we're seeing a lot of equipment that is maybe overseas, but it's starting to trickle in here, where there are actually robotic arms that come in and do some prep work. So we've actually been working with a company on doing the initial entry design, because that will change the building dynamic on how you enter into the car wash. And so we've been working with a group on that. And I think, I've seen all kinds of things on the drawing board that they're amazing, quite frankly, and you think it's going to be all sometime in the future, but the future's now, right? I mean, every time you turn around. And I think another trend that's big is system built construction, because that's what we do. We provide a system approach. So with my company, you come to us and we try to handle every facet of, the architectural, the engineering, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineering you'll need, and working back and forth with the city to get the permitting cleared. But then when you come to the building, we try to go to a system approach where the construction is much faster on site. We find, in this present day, it is more difficult in the construction end. You don't have the guys maybe with the experience back when we were younger, so we try to make our systems, a lot of them are, if I can say it, pre-assembled so that they go on to the building quicker. That makes for speed. And obviously the car wash operator, back of his mind is speed, right? How quick can I get open and start making money? So I think a system-built approach with some modular pieces to it, which we incorporate some modular in with ours. I will tell you another thing that I think is kind of gaining more traction, and it may be in different parts of the country. We see it more out on the West Coast, but I think, and maybe on the East Coast as well, honestly, but is for sustainability, So for clients, they can actually go through a LEED certification for their building. That's the Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design certification. And that can help you with taxes, tax incentives. It also makes the cities very happy because you're meeting some local goals of them, and some of them have incentives for that as well. But what is nice is if you get that certification, you can advertise that, and your clients, a lot of our modern day clients, they're concerned about sustainability, right? I mean, they're interested in these things, how you reclaim water and can reuse it again, how you can, a lot of our building, in fact, Rich, we do a lot of recycled material. I work with, my steel is 50% recycled, American-made steel, North American sourced. The aluminum that we work with is also recycled material. We have less than 10% waste right now at the shop. That's a goal that we've worked toward over the last several years. And so in both the fabrication facilities, we're right at 10%. And it's important to us, it's important to me that we have a lot of North American made products in our building. And, but it's also important that we, contribute to the waste dump a little less too, you know what I mean? And be able to utilize. Sure. And I think that's important to clients. I guess a trend for clients would be environmental, issues. And I think if we seem in the industry as though we're interested in those things, not just because the city forces us or the law mandates it, but if we're truly interested in those things, I think that translates to the clients. And maybe not all, but I would say a lot of your clients, I'm surprised actually, but a lot of them are very concerned about these things. So I guess I think a lot of the trends are heading in the environmental areas, but also in obviously all the robotics and technology that we're able to fit more and more and more in, and the telemetry, how you can really get your clients' buying preferences down and plan for that. I've seen some systems lately that actually are checking the sizing of the vehicle per the client and can identify it with the client so that you maximize the amount of, minimize the amount of water used. And there's just some amazing things coming online that'll be great for the operator, I think, and the client, both of us. So.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned a couple of environmentally friendly features that we're seeing at Modern Carwash. I've worked on a few stories where some have put solar panels on their roofs and drawn power from the sun. So it's great to hear that environmental sustainability is front and center in design and on these operators' minds. But earlier in the conversation today, Tim, you mentioned that you like to get involved at the beginning of the process with these operators on the ground floor. So so I would imagine that's one of the most common mistakes and pitfalls that people make, is that they try to maybe design the building on their own, and then they get in over their heads, and then they reach out to a designer like Modernwash. Have you noticed in your experience over these 30 years, have you noticed any other common pitfalls or mistakes that car wash owners should maybe avoid when looking to design and construct the car wash?
How much time do you have, Rich?
As much as you need, Tim.
No, we all learn. But when an operator, when they're going in, we do say some of the same things over and over again. Sorry about that, Rich. We see some of the same things over and over again. And, and if you meet an operator that's done a car wash, the next car wash is going to be different, correct? They're going to change things every time. It's almost like folks in the housing industry, they build a house and the next house, they want it to be different, obviously. So, but there are some of the things that are kind of over and over again, and that's where hopefully we are a benefit. We can be a very good sounding board, and if it's, we've seen it or done it or been there and got the T-shirt or the ticket off the train, but one of them is inadequate planning. And that's kind of what you covered right there, is sometimes, first of all, it's never too early to start, planning. We tell them to start as soon as you possibly can, because it's going to take longer than they think, going through all of the permitting processes, sometimes the local review boards, sometimes you'll have a neighborhood, and car washes, have been given a bad rap, let's face it, over the years. And some of it is deserved, some of it undeserved. I think we've been so far away from those old buildings like you talked about and old operations that the car wash industry deserves a very fresh look. And we're finding cities are a little bit better about that now. And, but you do need to start planning early and not wait till the very end, because we have people that will call and they want to, get it all done within a week. And it takes some time, unfortunately. But inadequate planning, I think, is a big one. I'm going to throw in there poor site selection. Sometimes when they select a site, they have bought it based on a real estate agent's recommendation. And this is not to throw off on the real estate agents. Just some are more savvy about the industry than others, obviously. And but some folks buy a site that just either it's too small for their needs, it may be too large for their needs, quite frankly. It may not provide the traffic or the rooftops in the area that are adequate for a good, profitable operation. And we all want that in the industry. We want everybody to do well. We want the industry to grow healthy. And so I would say a lot of times site selection, and it's, now that we've got a lot of consultants in the industry, we hope people get with those. We always point people to a good consultant. And there's several out there that can help them with a good site. I think another thing is environmental regulations. It is important to not only the site that you have picked, make sure there's nothing there you don't know about. You know what I'm saying? We find a lot of customers that find out, they've got a flood zone right in the middle of the property, or there's this huge buried fiber optic line right through the center of this beautiful 2-acre, spot. And so due diligence is important. Really, really make sure that you can use all the property. I think another, and I don't mean to just drone on, Rich, but another one, I think folks underestimate the cost of things, because it does add up. And I think what folks need to realize is they are, like we said, and I don't mean to just go over it several times, but they are building a high-tech laboratory. And that's really what it is. It's not your dad's car wash or your grandfather's car wash anymore, right? We're building something that if you go in the back room, the equipment room, it shocks a lot of people that have never been in the industry because they had no idea. You have all this chemical processing and all these huge tanks and it looks like an octopus of wires on the wall. And, I think a lot of people, after, in my experience, when I have had a client or two in our back room, they gain respect, for what is going actually on, because this is a giant robot that is washing your vehicle to the premium optimum way, saving water and maximizing the cleaning ability. And so anyway, I think they underestimate pricing sometimes because things do cost, and costs go up, obviously, over time. And so it's always good to budget and then budget again,
Right.
as you go through it. And I think another thing that we see a lot of, and these are just the high points, Rich, but we'll get layouts sent to us that maybe an architect has done or someone that has never designed a car wash, and all fine and good. Everyone has to learn, but we'll get things in that just, that's not going to work, So we tell people, let us do a layout for you. We do here at Modernwash, we do free site plans for folks to be a help, because I would rather see them get a good start, but we'll see people send in layouts, and a lot of times from the civil engineers, they'll send a site plan that's just horrible. And the civil engineers, this is not their fault, but they know the code of the locality that they work in. And so they're really trying to design to meet the code, of the locale, the parking spots and all, and that's all fine and good, but we need to overlay that on a car wash pump that we have first designed. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
Civil needs to kind of overlay secondary and we all have to harmonize and work together, to make it work. But the first things first, we're in the car wash industry. We're here to make money, right? The guys or the ladies opening up the establishment to make money. That's the whole idea. Well, the idea of that is you got to move people in, you got to move them out, you got to do it efficiently. You can't put a lot of parking spots in the way or islands that come out and protrude. And so we see a lot of civil engineer plans, and not these guys' fault. They probably never designed a car wash. They've done shopping centers, and maybe a drive-through, a restaurant type thing. But a car wash, Rich, as you well know, it's its own animal. It's its own thing. It
is, yeah. You can't blame the engineers who work on these other commercial projects. They don't know what they don't know when it comes. Car wash industry is a unique animal, like you mentioned, and to your other point, Tim, we hear it a lot at PC&D magazine. Is great operators make car wash look easy, but it's anything but that when you get into the nitty gritty and learn the alphabet soup of the POS and the VFD and the, all this technology that is going into these great modern car washes today. So perfect segue. And by the way, if when I do decide to start Rich's Car Wash, right, I'm going to make sure to contact my consultant, but then my second thing is going to modernwash.net, right, to get you in.
Give us a call. We'll do a layout and a free site plan, Rich. So at least.
Now I just got to convince my wife we need several $1 million worth of loans to get going. But
half the time you have to wash your cars to make that profitable. But
Exactly. I might need you for that conversation with my wife. I'll let you know. But Tim, just to wrap us up here, and obviously, like you said, the future is now, right? We go to these car wash shows, and all this technology and all these companies that are coming into the industry, whether it be license plate recognition, geo-targeting, and all this technology that's coming into the market is just amazing. I've been going to these shows for about 10, 12 years now. Just seems like in the past 5 years, it's been an amazing emergence of these new tech companies. So when you're building a car wash today in 2024, how do you account for the emerging technologies that are coming into the market, and how much do you have to anticipate future trends?
Well, that's a deep question, Rich. And technology plays a role with everything we do. To give you a little background on what some of the things we do, we actually, we use a very advanced architectural design software. And so I stay up on that as far as air technology goes. From the design standpoint, it costs us quite a bit of money. All of our systems we update annually, obviously, but we work in a 3D, what they call a building information model. So it's a BIM model, they call it. And the reason we do that is because you can capture a lot of issues early on when you're working in a 3D environment. And that's becoming more common now. But when we started doing that, gosh, it was a long time ago. It was pretty new for everybody. And now all my designers, they work in this constantly. And so that enables you to actually see the building as you're designing it, but also lets our client be able to see it. And honestly, we have got some walk-through technology where they can actually walk through the space when they get done. You can do the VR headset, or you can do it with a mouse, So for technology for us, we're always implementing new things in the shop. We've got some new equipment, a new line beam machine coming in that is automated, that takes a piece of steel and does tons of prep work on it, on its own. And then a robot arm takes it, moves it to the next stage for quality control. So on our end, we work with a lot of things, and we have just incorporated an AI system into some of our design work. So that AI system, what it's supposed to do is to kind of review kind of what's out there, kind of like what we've talked about today. I can tell you some trends I know about, but this thing scans the globe, for things that are happening in the design world, so to speak. And so it helps bring them into us and make suggestions. And so for technology for us, we really try to stay up because you have to, you have to. Now, technology in the car wash industry, we have to design a little bit for what's next with the buildings. Obviously we mentioned the robotic systems and how We're seeing some robotic arms that will do prep work coming up. And so we've been working with a company that's developed those on the entrances of the car wash and how that whole staff interaction is different with that type of system. So we're thinking on how the office has to be positioned differently, the access doors. I know this is boring stuff,
Not at all. Yeah.
But we have to look at all those things, and because that technology actively just changed our building, and how we load a vehicle in technically. And then another big thing that I think we're seeing more of all the time, that's charging stations, for electric cars. And we are really recommending clients, hey, seriously, and I know I'm going to have some jeers out there because there's folks that want to put 300 vacuum stalls if they can on the site,
Right.
I'm on their side, if they've got the room. But, some of those vacuum stalls might be looked as another profit center. It may come an electric charging, depending on the infrastructure. But there's several systems out there now, payment systems that make it very easy. And we're working with clients right now on several where they can actually make money on those stalls. Not every site is busy as some sites. Now, obviously, we know on a Saturday and a Friday, usually those sites are busier. But there's a lot of time during the week that they may have some vacuum stalls that are, could be a dual purpose. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So we're designing sites around that and actually designing the vacuum island areas a little differently to take that into account. And obviously that has a whole different MEP to it, mechanical, electrical, plumbing design. So we're having to bring in larger amounts of power and be aware of those things early on with the city and the utility. When folks want to do that, that requires a little bit more footwork on their part, and, but I see that affecting things now. And also, you mentioned solar, and we work in areas of the country where solar really can do it all. You can really put a lot back onto the grid and make money that way, or you can use it as a very strong, not primary source, but a pretty good secondary source of power. Then we work in other areas of the country where the sun, is not as evident throughout the year. And those areas can use that solar panel or maybe some solar there to use as a secondary lighting system. It could be helped to use to light the lighting, the LED signage, the interior lighting. And I think that's a really neat thing for operators to think about. If you can't do a huge solar field, you can still do a small solar section. And we do these. We provide panels and technology for these secondary systems where you can light your secondary lighting, landscape lighting, and to your client, that sends a strong message. It looks like you're very environmentally friendly, and you're trying to use some of the sun's power. And also it looks as though you care about these things. Obviously, if you've taken time to do this solar research and to put the solar on, you care about your business. People, they pick up on this stuff. It's just like a clean site. People notice when a site is clean. They notice when it's dirty. I'll tell you that. And I hear several customers will say, I don't want to take a bath in a dirty bathtub, quote unquote. We heard that for years. And I mean, so you better keep your facility clean. It's you have to just look at it of a cost of maintenance. And that's another thing I think we mentioned earlier, some things people don't think about, maintenance. And, it is an important part of our business, of our industry. And so one of the other things I guess you could say with technology is there are some new materials that are coming online that will help us to keep the interior of the car wash cleaner of the building we design. And so we're incorporating some new materials and some new things that are coming on board. I think that will help the operator with less maintenance. And so we're always looking for, you walk a fine line of we want a striking design that's very modern and will pull people off the road. But we also don't want this thing so hard to take care of that it's difficult, And obviously we've all added glass. And that's a big part of our industry for a long time, was adding glazing in. But we want to look for ways to, I guess, bring light into the building without causing you to have to clean miles of glass. And so, we've got some materials that hopefully allow us to do that as well. And, but, every time you turn around, there's something new, and we're looking about how can we incorporate that? How can we incorporate? I've got some samples right now on the light table in the design meeting room, and that we're looking at some new materials that we can bring into the building that, cost-wise, they're reasonable, but they really up the game. They really are a next level. And so we're always trying to bring the best we can to our clients. We really are. I mean, we want to offer the best of a medium that we can between this awesome modern design, but also a usable building that your staff can round in and function as they should. So,
yeah, because these are buildings, especially now with membership, some of these are high volume sites. They're going to get used. They're going to get stuff on them and water and soap, and that's just the environment of the car wash. So working with newer materials that you mentioned that you're seeing and trying to incorporate them into this design sounds all amazing to me, Tim.
Well, think about it, Rich. You're in an environment that is like a hurricane. For 10 hours out of the day, you got a hurricane going on inside, and right. So you've got to have materials that hold up, last. Hopefully, they're easy to maintain, but they got to be durable. They got to be rugged, and they got to withstand that. So, and then you have to put it in a package that the city is happy with at the end of the day too.
Right.
It makes things fun.
I'm sure, and there are a lot of good times ahead, Tim, in this industry and at Modern Wash. The website is modernwash.net, if I'm not mistaken. Is there a phone number or email address?
Yes, sir. 1-800-511-7208, and just give us a call. And I tell you, we answer our phones, and we get back to folks quickly with whatever question they might have. And so, we love dealing with people. Been doing it for a long time. We must love it, right? I guess.
Right. Well, I'll work on getting that first $7 million investment, and then I'll be in touch for the designs on Rich's Car Wash. How's that?
I'll work on the speech for your wife if you work on a speech for my wife. How about that?
Okay, sounds great. I'll work on it as soon as I can. Tim, it was great spending some time with you today. I appreciate you helping us understand what it takes to construct and design a modern car wash today. I know our audience will like hearing your thoughts today, and I appreciate you taking some time to be on the program with me today, Tim.
Rich, I always enjoy talking to you. Anytime, brother, we have an opportunity. So thank you once again for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity, and just thank you again.